Hey guys, so I've wanted to do this since frickin' forever, and I never really knew how to approach this without making the elitist Metallica community mad. Well, now that I no longer fear waves of elitists anymore, I'm going to give my honest and subjective opinions in this ranking of all the Metallica records while also maintaining a level of objectivity as well. So before we get into the ranking, there are a couple things I want to make crystal clear. Number one, this ranking will not include Lulu or Garage Inc. Now, Lulu was a bad idea from the second the idea was even conceived. And just Lou Richards is just not a great singer. I never thought he was. I'm sure I'll probably get hazed for that, but I don't care. And Garage Inc. is an awesome album, but the reason it's not on this list is because it's not really Metallica's, original work. It's all covers, and they're all great covers. But this list is only going to be comprised of the work that was originally created by the band. And number two, I want to go ahead and make this clear as well. I either like or love all of these records. And there's not one record on here that I don't like. Metallica is my favorite band of all time, so I'm going to be a bit biased at points in this video. So let's get into it. So dead last we have Death Magnetic. Now, I like this album, but holy hell, the drums are way too loud. And I'm not really someone who likes Lars Ulrich all that much. I actually think Metallica should have fired Lars Ulrich a long time ago. But I don't ever really revisit this album as a whole very often. There are some great songs on this album, though. Cyanide, Unforgiven 3, The Day That Never Comes, All Nightmare Long. Those are all great songs. But to me, this is when I thought that Metallica was kind of going the same route as Slayer in the sense that they need to just give up and just stick to touring and stop making, new material. Because it just kind of felt like everything's been done, so we should just stop. But, yeah, Death Magnetic is my least favorite Metallica album. But I do like it. It's just not one I don't love this album. I like it. Now we have Reload. And I actually like Reload quite a bit. If you look at it as less of a metal album and more of like a grunge rock album, you'll enjoy this a lot more. Whereas if you go into this expecting something off the first 5 albums, you're going to be heavily disappointed. But everything is mixed really well on this album. Nothing's too loud. You actually have some heavier songs on here like Slither, which is my favorite song on Reload. And you got The Memory Remains and Fuel, which are very famous songs. But I think my second favorite track is actually The Unforgiven 2. And I think all 3 Unforgiven songs are just masterpieces of rock and metal. And Reload is a really good rock album if you look at it as a rock album, not a metal album. And same kind of thing for Load. And I've always liked Load a little bit more than Reload. You had songs on here like Ain't My Bitch, Hero of the Day, King Nothing, The House That Jack Built, Wasting My Hate. It's just, we have a great album with Load. Load has, to me, though, the same issues to some fans as Reload does with it not feeling like a metal album. But when I listen to both albums, that's not really an issue for me. To me, Load and Reload kind of feel like Metallica wanted to try some new things, and for me it worked with these 2 albums. I really like Load and Reload, but that's just me. And here's where we're actually going to get really controversial. I love Saint Anger. It's just so raw and aggressive. Did it feel like they were trying to grab the new metal audience and rival some of the new metal bands? Bands like Mudvayne, Coal Chamber, Static X, Korn, System of a Down, Slipknot, Limp Bizkit, Deftones, all those bands? Sure. But does that make the album bad? No. There is one big issue with Saint Anger that does stick out like a sore thumb, and that's the snare. What the hell was Lars thinking? That snare pretty much ruined this album for every Metallica fan, other than me, it seems like. But I'm not big on the snare either. That could have done away with that, and the album would have been instantly better. But some of the songs are still great. The title track, like the song Saint Anger is really good and really aggressive, and Some Kind of Monster and Frantic, Purify, those are real bangers. And I think that on this album, James' vocals sound the best they've ever sounded since the Black Album. I just love that riff in Purify as well. Listen to the song and you know what I'm talking about. Now we're going to move on to Hardwired to Self-Destruct. This is the album that I wanted Death Magnetic to be. This is what I expected when Death Magnetic came out. But with Hardwired to Self-Destruct, Metallica really goes back to what made the first 5 albums great. The thrash metal version of Metallica is back with this one. And like I said, I loved Reload, and Saint Anger, but this felt like Metallica to me. Like, I listened to this, and I just thought, Metallica is back. You know, were there some not so great songs on here? Yeah, this wasn't a great album, but I'll be damned if I don't say that there weren't some great ones on here as well. Hardwired, Moth into Flame, Now That We're Dead. I still listen to the song Hardwired on a daily basis. But, like I said, the reason Hardwired's so special to me is because I remember the first time I heard it, and it felt like an assault on my senses, and that let me know that Metallica was back, and they weren't fucking around anymore. Now we'll go on to the Black Album, which is a great album. But, damn, I could really go the rest of my life without hearing Enter Sandman again. I've heard Enter Sandman enough times in my life. And that's the most overplayed song to me in the history of rock and metal, just altogether. And just let the people know, the Black Album has other great songs on it. Sad But True, Of Wolf and Man, The Unforgiven, Nothing Else Matters, and my personal favorite off the album, The God That Failed. You could argue that this is where Metallica went mainstream, but I disagree. I think all of that started when Load and Reload came out, where they started really going mainstream. That's when I think that started. I don't blame the Black Album for that. It just so happened that Sandman became a hit. But what I love about the Black Album is just how heavy the guitar tone is on this one. The guitar tone is just boner-inducing. Most people say how they love the first 4 Metallica albums, but to me, the first 5 are the best Metallica albums. Alright, let's move on to Kill 'Em All. This one used to actually be my favorite Metallica album. But with this album, for how great it is, I don't think this was Metallica fully fleshed out and realized yet. I don't think they realized, or I don't think, I think Kill 'Em All really showed how much potential Metallica had. You had songs like Seek and Destroy, which is probably the most famous song off the album, but not my favorite. My favorite is actually The Four Horsemen. I think that's the best song on Kill 'Em All. It's so aggressive. I love how raw this entire album sounds. This feels like 80s thrash to me. It's got that really raw guitar tone, the really raw vocals, just raw everything, and it was awesome. So Kill 'Em All it's a classic. Now we'll move on to Master of Puppets, and this is another all-time great thrash album. But I like that they do some other stuff, more progressive style songs like Welcome Home, but they also stay true to their thrash sound with songs like Battery and Master of Puppets and whatnot. And Master of Puppets is actually a lot of people's favorite Metallica album. Just, to me, like, it's not my favorite, but I do love this album. But this album is a damn classic. I actually used to have the poster flag for it in my bedroom when I was a kid, too. And, yeah, I had that, and I had a Tool poster up in my room. Those were good days. Alright, so we're at Ride the Lightning. And all I can say is the fact that Fade to Black is literally the worst song on this album says everything, or says a lot about this album. Every single song on this album is perfect. Fight Fire with Fire probably being my favorite song on the album. I just love how fast and thrashy the song is, and just how non-stop throughout the entire album it is. It's just an assault on your senses. Ride the Lightning, to me, just rivals any Slayer album out there. And I love Slayer, too. South of Heaven's one of the greatest thrash albums, in my opinion. I love Slayer as a band, but Metallica just hits on a whole other level for me. And that feeling started with when I first heard Ride the Lightning. And I listened to all of Metallica's albums in order of release, and that feeling really kicked in when I first heard Ride the Lightning. And now to the finale, and to my favorite Metallica album, probably my favorite album of all time, and Justice for All. This is literally one of my favorite albums of all time. But to a lot of people, this is one that was not. People aren't as nice nowadays to Injustice for All as they are to Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, and Master of Puppets. But This to me is Metallica's prog album. Is it still thrash? Yes, but it wasn't a fully thrash album. Like I said, this was their prog album. They mixed it up a bit here, and it really worked for me. It worked perfectly. I don't have any issues with Injustice at all. And to me, this is what a perfect album feels like. My favorite song it's a huge tie between Eye of the Beholder, Harvester of Sorrow, 1, and To Live Is to Die. The guitar tone on this entire album is once again boner inducing. Not to use the same joke more than once, but it is boner inducing. And I can understand if this isn't your favorite from Metallica, but I've seen this album get shat on and it almost pisses me off to an extent just because of, it's my favorite Metallica album. No, Ride the Lightning's not my favorite, Master of Puppets is not my favorite, and Justice for All is and always has been my favorite. Aside from when I thought Kill 'Em All was the best. But, no, I am a huge And Justice for All fan. I'm just a huge Metallica fan altogether. And that really will conclude my Metallica album ranking. Like I said, Metallica is my favorite band, and I love all their albums. And, how would you, all that are, fans of Metallica, how would you rank their albums? Let me know down in the comments, and please try to stay nice in the comments as well. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'm out. Peace.